Yes, indeed. What's happening, world? D-March Boxing back at it with another boxing video. Check out my playlist right here on YouTube. Historical accounts, historical archives. Check out my playlist, controversial decisions, fights we didn't get to see. All kinds of stuff in my playlist. So today we're going to be talking about the light heavyweight division. You know what I'm saying? The light heavyweight division basically from, let me see, I'd say probably from about 85, 1985 till present day, you know what I mean? But in particular, we're just a lineage of an era that I consider to be a disputed era, you know what I mean? And that's what we're here to talk about, the disputed era, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to take you back to when everything was all fine till things got a little murky and things got, lost in the shuffle, you know what I mean? As far as lineage and who's the best really, who is really number one in the light heavyweight division, etc. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna go back and the good, the bad, and the ugly, basically. You know what I mean? All right. So we're gonna take you back to 19, like I said, 1985. You know what I'm saying? Well, between 83 and 85 to be exact, when Michael Spinks became the undisputed and the lineal champion of the world in the light heavyweight division, capturing the WBC title in this unification with Dwight Muhammad Qawi. You know what I mean? Dwight Muhammad Qawi comes in with his WBC belt that he beat off of Matthew Saad Muhammad. He stopped Matthew Saad Muhammad, and then the man um, Michael Spinks is coming in with his WBA title that he beat off of Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. You know what I mean? That was the era of the light heavyweight division with three legendary fighters at least with the Muslim name. You know what I mean? All three of them were inspired by Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean? Okay, so that's 1985 to 1983. This particular fight, excuse me, 83 to 85. And this fight right here between Dwight Muhammad Qawi and Michael Spinks is when the lineal and the Ring Magazine champion got crowned. You know what I mean? That's when they got crowned. When whoever won this particular fight, and back in those days, you needed only two belts to become undisputed. You know what I'm saying? Um, as a matter of fact, Dwight Muhammad Qawi was already the ring light heavyweight champion with the WBC when he beat Matthew Saad Muhammad when he stopped him in, I believe, the 10th round of their first fight. Okay, so he's bringing his Ring Magazine title and the vacant lineal titles on the line when, in this particular fight, when Michael Spinks and Dwight Muhammad Qawi unified the alphabet belts, WBC and the WBA titles for undisputed. You know what I'm saying? And that was in 1983, okay? Dwight Muhammad Qawi loses this fight to Michael Spinks. Michael Spinks goes on to be a great heavyweight, you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, a great light heavyweight of his era. And he eventually moves up to light heavyweight, you know what I'm saying, in 1985. I'm sorry, the heavyweight, excuse me, in 1985. And that's when he became a world champion, you know what I'm saying? When he beat the man Larry Holmes to become the IBF and the Lineal and Ring Magazine heavyweight champion of the world. So he had to vacate his status at his lineal status at 175, and really truly during his era there was no dispute on who the best of the best was, you know what I'm saying? No question about it. There was no disputing on who the best light heavyweight of that era is, you know what I mean? You check it. So Dwight Muhammad Qawi loses a fight. Michael Spinks becomes undisputed, and he moves on to to heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? So now that title of Lineal and Ring Magazine was vacant for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And there's many factors that contributed to why that the light heavyweight lineal and ring magazine title were vacant. You know what I mean? Up until 1996, this particular fight we're looking at right here on the film study. You know what I'm saying? But before we get into that, just gotta let it be known. You know, there were champions after, of course, Michael Spinks vacated and went up the light heavyweight. You know, we had guys like J.B. Williamson. Marvin Johnson became a three-time light heavyweight champion in the process. We had guys like Slabodon Kakar, you know what I mean, became a world champion. Bobby Chaz, um, of course, Virgil Hill, 20 title defenses, 10 title defenses in two different reigns as a light heavyweight champ, you know what I mean? But all throughout this era between 1985 till 1996, we didn't have a lineal or a Ring Magazine champion, you know what I mean? And that's because in the 1990s, the Ring Magazine stopped awarding and handing out Ring Magazine titles, and that's when Steve Farhood, a well-known commentator on the Showbox edition of Showtime Boxing, you know what I'm saying, when he was the editor in chief, for whatever reason, he can explain to you best. Maybe somebody could shoot him a tweet and ask him why they stopped handing out magazine titles all throughout the 90s up until like 2002, but the lineal title was still um, in rotation. You know what I mean? If you beat the man who beat the man, you can still become a lineal champion. You know what I mean? So in this particular fight right here, we got Henry Maskey. Henry Maskey, this is a unification. You know what I mean? And this particular unification is in 1996, with Henry Maskey bringing his IBF world title to the ring. An IBF world title he beat off of Prince Charles Williams. Prince Charles Williams was an IBF champ for like 4 or 5 years. He had beat Bobby Chaz in one of the greatest fights you'll ever see in the light heavyweight division. I'm talking about drama, knockdowns. It's just, what a fight. What a fight. You know what I'm saying? Both guys came to fight, you know what I'm saying? And you know, with the WBC, you know, you had the Dennis Andrews, Jeff Harding, uh, you know, even Tommy Hearns, you know, was a light heavyweight champion, and all throughout the process, and we still didn't have, you know, the all throughout the period of 1980 when Michael Spinks vacated until Virgil Hill and Henry Maskey fought. There were numerous world champions. You know what I mean? It's like so many to mention. You know what I'm saying? You know, if the WBCs, like I said, the Jeff Hardings, the Dennis Andrews, you know what I mean? Sugar Ray Leonard, of course, beat Donnie Lalonde. You know what I'm saying? Mike McCallum was also a champion in that period. You know what I'm saying? Um, you check it, you know, you had numerous guys. I mentioned Iran Barkley and Tommy Hearns and Virgil Hills and the Leslie Stewarts of the world, you know what I mean? And the Bobby Chaz, etc. You know what I'm saying? So this particular fight is a unification. I guess there wasn't no unification all throughout them years up until 19, from the um, 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. A guy who is basically the franchise of the state of North Dakota, the most famous man in North Dakota, at least when he was fighting. You know what I mean? And he comes in with his WBA belt. I believe his WBA belt in his second title run, because I know in this first title run he beat Leslie Stewart for the light heavyweight title. In his second run, he beat Frank Tate, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so he comes over to Germany because the paydays are nice. You know what I mean? He fights Henry Maskey for a few $1 million. You know what I mean? Henry Maskey, like I said, he was a champion for a very long time. You know what I mean? Really and truly, Henry Maskey was a champion from 1993 till 1996. You know what I'm saying? After he beat Charles Williams, who was a champion for 6 years, from 87 till 93, with that IBF strap. You know what I mean? So in this unification, we finally now, the winner of this particular fight gets crowned also as a unified champion, WBA and IBF, and also now is the lineal champion. You know what I mean? So after a long period, you know what I mean, we finally get a long lineal light heavyweight champion. You know what I'm saying? So up until this point, nobody's undisputed yet, but the lineage now started back from Michael Spinks. Now it starts with Virgil Hill, who's the winner of this particular fight, you know what I'm saying, versus Henry Maskey. And he beat him pretty convincingly, you know what I mean? You check it. So, and I even remember seeing this fight when I was a young back on TV, on American TV, you know what I'm saying? I remember them showing that fight back in the day. And also Darius Michałowski versus Virgil Hill. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what Virgil Hill did next. Now as the lineal and the two unified champion, WBN, WBC, I'm sorry, WBN, IBF champion, he comes back to Germany. He likes it so nice, he wants to do it twice. You know what I'm saying? He comes back to Germany for some more millions of dollars, more money than he was currently making in the United States, coming to Germany to fight Henry Maskey, beats him. Now he's here versus Darius Michałowski, who holds a WBO title, excuse me. He's held it for many years. This is 1997, I believe, when they fought. And he beat Leonze Barber for the WBO title, I believe, in like 90, was it like 92 or 91? You know what I'm saying? He had that title for a long time, you know what I mean? You check it. So Darius Michałowski's undefeated. You know what I'm saying? He's the man in Germany, just like Henry Maskey was, and they never really unified. You know what I'm saying? I take that back. To be honest, they didn't unify. But Darius Michałowski, he became a champion when he beat Leonze Barber in '94. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, from '94, and at that particular time, I remember he even became a cruiserweight champion, but he elected to go back to light heavyweight and just continue defending his WBO titles. Now, Darius Michałowski is a major player, man. He's forever going to go down in history, and to me, I feel his name should always be attached to Roy Jones. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna get into that in a bit. You know what I'm saying? So this particular fight, Quicksilver comes to Germany. He fights the man. Uh, um, Darius Michałowski, and he loses on points. You know what I mean? I think I remember, if I recall, I had this fight about 8 rounds to 4. Darius Michałowski, he won this fight clearly. You know what I'm saying? So guess what now? At that time, you gotta also put this in perspective, and you gotta remember, in those days, at least in '96, '97, up all until the mid 2000s, the WBO wasn't regarded as a legitimate heavyweight title. I'm sorry, a legitimate world title. The WBA didn't even recognize it, and if the WBA, look, remember guys like Michael Moore, he had a WBO world title when he beat Burt Cooper. Yeah, but in order for him to get a fight with the man Evander Holyfield, who at the time was a unified heavyweight champion, he had to vacate his WBO title because that title wasn't recognized by the other sanctioning bodies. You know what I mean? The IBF, WBC, and the WBA. So, like I said, Darius Michałowski is a WBO title holder. He's facing the man Quicksilver, and he beats him. Now he has 3 titles. You know what I'm saying? He has 3 titles. WBO that he had already. WBA and IBF he snatches off of the man Virgil Hill, and now he also has the lineal title. Remember, Ring Magazine title is not around. It comes back in the early 2000s. You know what I'm saying? So Quicksilver got a quick short reign as a lineal champion, but he's in the Hall of Fame. One of the greatest top 10, at least, light heavyweights of all time. I mean, 20 title defenses in 2 different reigns. Got to give the guy his credit, and actually, got to give him his props, you know what I mean? That particular fight, the jab he just couldn't keep that jab. What's his name? Des Michikowski was getting past that jab, and look, he really had no answers for him. You know what I mean? You check it. Yes, indeed. So after Michikowski becomes, now he's a lineal champion. Okay. In the meantime, Roy Jones has moved up to light heavyweight, and he's about to face, in his first attempt at light heavyweight at a world title, he faces the man, what's his name? Mike McCallum, you know what I mean? And Mike McCallum, this particular fight was for um, a vacant interim title, you know what I'm saying, for the light heavyweight WBC, you know what I mean? Because the man, Mike McCallum had lost his titles in France to the light heavyweight by the name of Fabrice Tiozo, you know what I'm saying? And when Roy Jones came to the division, Fabrice Tiozi was kind of inactive at the time, you know what I'm saying? And Roy Jones fights the man Mike McCallum in this particular fight on the film study. Old Mike McCallum at that, don't get it twisted, man. Mike McCallum was 40 years old. You know what I'm saying? He was 40 years old when he fought Roy Jones at this particular time, you know what I mean? And Roy Jones, he wins this particular fight easy. Like he actually washed him like every single round, man. It was just like most of Roy Jones fights, you know. You know what I'm saying? He was washing guys like almost every single round, you know what I mean? You check it. So Fabrice Tiozzi vacates the title or moves up the cruiserweight. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, Fabrice Tiozzi is also the first man to stop Darius Michikowski. But I digress. Um, Roy Jones now fights, what's his name? After he wins this particular fight, now he's the interim champion. Fabrice Tiozzi at the time still the champ, but then Roy Jones now fights, what's his name? What's that guy's name from Chicago? Montel Griffin. And now that particular fight was, whoever wins that fight will be elevated to the legitimate WBC light heavyweight champion of the world, okay? And with that being said, of course, in the first fight, everybody knows what happens. If you don't know, that was Roy Jones' first loss. He lost via disqualification. And this is now the rematch, all right? This is the rematch of now Roy Jones trying to get the heavyweight title that he lost, you know what I mean? And this is the rematch with Montel Griffin, and everybody knows what happened in this particular fight, man. Roy Jones just did his demolition derby on the man Montel Griffin, you know what I mean? He just destroyed him with them left hooks. And, you know, look, you'll see it, man. It was just a mean left hook, just one punch, man. And had this guy doing the treble Burbick, you know what I'm saying? You know, Montel Griffin, man, you know, at least he can say he has a victory over Roy Jones. I'm sure he'll take it any which way possible, especially at the time when Roy Jones was a combination of speed, power, and just those superb reflexes. Athleticism was just a marvel, you know what I mean? Roy Jones was second to none in his time, at least in his weight classes, you know what I'm saying? In the weight classes he competed in, you know what I mean? I just want y'all to see one time, man. I want to see myself. I want to see on the film study what Roy Jones did to Montel Griffin in the second fight, you know what I mean? And like I said, now for whomever wins this fight is for the legitimate 175-pound light heavyweight championship with the WBC, you know what I mean? Here it comes sooner than later. Here it comes. I know it's a first round knockout, you know what I mean? So hold your horses. Roy Jones with the reflexes, of course, with his hands down, trying to bait in his opponent. Montel Griffin was a very short light heavyweight, you know what I mean? Really and truly 5'7", you know what I'm saying? You know, from Chicago. For some reason or another, ain't too many fighters or great fighters that come out of Chicago, you know what I mean? And I, I can't recall the last time we've had any legitimate fighters on the world scene. No, last guys I could remember was guys like Montel Griffin and the heavyweight, what's his name? Oliver McCall, you know what I'm saying? Former world champion. There we go. Left hook uppercut. And the guy is on Queer Street. And it's a wrap, man. He never really recovered, you know what I'm saying? He did the treble Burbick. Look at the legs. His mind's telling him stand up, but the legs are not allowing it. That's what we call doing the treble Burbick, you know what I'm saying? And Roy Jones recaptures his title, WBC, you know what I mean? And this is all throughout the era, you know what I'm saying? Now, this particular fight with this Australian, who's undefeated, by the way, 28-0 with one draw, Glenn Kelly, you know what I'm saying, came over to America with his undefeated record, and he fought Roy Jones, you know what I'm saying? And I believe this fight might have been around like 2003, if I'm not mistaken, you know what I'm saying? But in the meantime, between time, let me put, actually, we'll get to that in a bit. Maybe I could expound on that right now, you know what I'm saying? When this man Roy Jones beats this guy by the name of Glenn Kelly, you know what I'm saying? He gets rewarded with the Ring light heavyweight title. Now Ring Magazine is back in effect with they titles. You know what I mean? Uh, Roy Jones ain't have to beat Glenn Kelly to win the title. They awarded it him. They just gave it to him. You know what I'm saying? Um, like I said, the man Michikowski was the lineal champion. You know what I'm saying? But the Ring magazine decided to ignore the man Michikowski and just award the American fighter. You know what I'm saying? Because the American public had no clue who the man Darius Michikowski was. Let's be honest about it. You know, so the American public did know who Roy Jones was. So it was, I guess, a marketing tool also. You know what I mean? To having one of the best fighters at the time, if not the best pound for pound fighter at the time in 2002, become the light heavyweight Ring Magazine champ. You know what I mean? But Michikowski, remember, Michikowski has also vacated his WBA title and his IBF title, titles that he beat Virgil Hill for. You know what I mean? He remained with his sole WBO title that he always had since 1994, and he's continuing with his title defenses. You know what I'm saying? The other guy, and now the belts are vacant. You know what I mean? The belts are vacant, and now they're up for grabs. You know what I'm saying? Guys like Roy Jones, he knocked out Glenn Kelly with the behind the back punch. You know what I mean? It was something special. You know what I'm saying? You check it. So enter 2003, I believe November. Darius Michikowski, this is 2003. Remember, he beat Virgil Hill for the unified titles in 1997. You know what I'm saying? So he vacated his WBA title, and I believe Lou Duval, he fought some guy from the Netherlands. I can't remember his name. I've never even seen that fight. I've never seen it since back in the day. Never seen it on film neither. He fought some guy from the Netherlands who I believe was undefeated at the time. Lou Duval is a Puerto Rican guy who coaches guys like Badu Jack. He's a former light heavyweight champion, the very first man to put Roy Jones on the canvas, to drop Roy Jones. And he's from Queensbridge, you know what I mean? From Queensbridge Housing Projects in Long Island City, New York, Queens. You know what I'm saying? He fought that guy, that new guy from the Netherlands, and he beats him. And then for the WBA title, now he's a WBA champion. While the guy, what's his name? Um, Willie Guthrie. Willie Guthrie. I forgot who he fought. He fought some guy from Cleveland. I forgot the gentleman's name, man. I forgot the guy's name that he fought from Cleveland. Willie Guthrie fought for the vacant IBF title, and he beats the guy from Cleveland. I forgot his name. He stops him, and then Willie Guthrie goes on to face Reggie Johnson. You know what I mean? Reggie Johnson moved up from middleweight to light heavyweight. He basically skipped 168 pounds. You know what I'm saying? He jumped up all the way to 175, and he stops Willie Guthrie in, I believe, 5 rounds. You know what I mean? It was a shocking upset, you know what I'm saying? Because the guy, Reggie Johnson, had just come off some bad controversial decisions in Argentina versus Jorge Castro. Look, the man moved up, you know what I mean, to 175, where he feels more comfortable at 175. And he beats Willie Guthrie, who's the champion at the time with the vacated belts after he captured a vacant title. And that's how Reggie Johnson now becomes the IBF champion, you know what I'm saying? So Roy Jones, in the meantime, in between time, all throughout all these years, he fights Reggie Johnson and he washes him, he beats him up, drops him at least twice. And he also, and to become unified, actually to become undisputed. Before that, he had just beat Lou Duval in New York City, Madison Square Garden. Lou Duval lost every single round of that fight except, I believe, round 8 when he dropped Roy Jones, you know what I mean? So Roy Jones is now undisputed, quote unquote, air quotes, undisputed. WBC, WBA, and IBF. Those times you only needed 3 titles. With a Ring Magazine title, Roy Jones has, you know what I mean, when he beat Glenn Kelly. So he's very decorated. Darius Michikowski, as you see here on the screen, he's fighting Julio Cesar Gonzalez, you know what I mean, a guy out of Mexico, you know what I mean. There's not too many light heavyweight Mexicans as long as I've been watching boxing. He probably was The first one, excuse me, that I ever knew. And he fought Roy Jones already. He had been fought Roy Jones, and he was undefeated when he fought Roy Jones, and Roy Jones washed him too, dropped him a few times, and won every single round, 12 rounds to zip, at least from what I remember from that fight, you know. So with Roy Jones now, I'm sorry, Roy Jones, like I said, is undisputed, quote unquote. I call him disputed, and that's the basis of this particular video. You know what I mean? Darius Michukowski is over there, and he's over there in what you call it, in Germany. You know what I'm saying? He's not fighting really the best of the best. Let's be honest. He's fighting Roy Jones leftovers. You know what I mean? That's the truth of the matter. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's fighting Roy Jones leftovers from guys like um, what's that guy's name? Montel Griffin was a leftover, a guy that Roy Jones had fought twice already. Richard Hall, who in the second fight with Michikowski, they went life and death. That was a guy Roy Jones battered already. You know what I mean? Derek Harmon, these are guys that had already lost to Roy Jones. You know what I'm saying? Um, I thought he had fought Eric Harding. Maybe he had. I'm not too sure. I thought he did. Maybe I might be mistaken, you know what I'm saying? But the only leftover of Michukowski that Roy Jones fought, and that's why, to me, he had a disputed era. He fought Virgil Hill immediately after Virgil Hill had lost to the man Michukowski in Germany. Why wouldn't Roy Jones face the man Michukowski, the man who beat the man? You know what I'm saying? The man who beat the man who beat the man. Rather, he fought the guy who lost to the man. That's who Roy Jones fought in his very first uh, in Virgil Hill's immediate fight. You know what I'm saying? You know, so and that's a fight where Roy Jones broke that man's ribs, you know what I mean, with the mean body shot, okay? So Michukowski's 48 and 0 in this particular fight, going for 49 and 0, and he loses a split decision to Julio Cesar Gonzalez. Rest in peace, matter of fact, to the strong Mexican former light heavyweight champion, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so he loses that particular fight, you know what I mean? Okay? Now, Julio Cesar Gonzalez beats the man Michukowski in Germany. Michukowski hasn't lost in 48 fights. He loses in his 49th fight, trying to go 49 and 0. Something similar to the man, excuse me, I'm Larry Holmes, you know what I mean? Something similar to Larry Holmes. It's almost like deja vu. You check it. Now, Julio Cesar Gonzalez is now the lineal and the WBO champion. Of course, he beat the man who beat the man who beat the man in Darius Michikowski, who was a champ from like 1997 till '03. Man had a strong reign, you know what I'm saying? Got to give him his credit, no question about it. You check it. So Julio Cesar Gonzalez in his first title defense at light heavyweight as a WBO champion and the lineal light heavyweight champion. He faces a guy from Hungary based out in Germany by the name of Zolt Erdi. Zolt Erdi's an infamous name, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, dogs. He's an infamous name, and we're gonna get into why he's an infamous name. This guy Zolt Erdi now is the WBO and the lineal champion at light heavyweight. Of course, he beat the man who beat the man who beat the man, correct? Right. He beats Julio Cesar Gonzalez. Julio Cesar Gonzalez had beat Darius Michukowski. Darius Michukowski beat Virgil Hill. All right. Now, Zolt Erdi, from 2004 when he beat the man Julio Cesar Gonzalez, you know what I'm saying? As you can see on the film study right there, Julio Cesar Gonzalez and the man Zolt Erdi. This man, Zolt Erdi, man, he had weak title defenses. Very weak. The best name on his resume as far as his light heavyweight reign was a guy by the name of Thomas Ulrich. That was a German guy, you know what I mean? Or maybe Hugo Garay. That was a guy from Argentina. From 2004 till 2009, 5 years. Zolt Erdi was undefeated and as a WBO and lineal light heavyweight champion. Okay? Undefeated, you know what I mean? Man is beating everybody. Not like smashing them. I mean, there's a lot of decision victories, like majority decisions and split decisions in his reign as a light heavyweight champion. You know what I mean? But then this guy was only in Germany, just like Michalkowski. He never left Germany. Was just fighting in Germany when he was defending his WBO and lineal titles, and he was fighting bottom feeders. He wasn't fighting the best of the best in the light heavyweight division, and he beats the man Julio Cesar Gonzalez. But like I said, he wasn't fighting nobody. You know what I mean? You check it. So this is now where it gets to be dicey and tricky. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I hope you gonna have any excuses today, Roy. Yeah. Right here we got Roy Jones versus Antonio Tarver, the second fight. Antonio Tarver is not the champ. When they fought the first time, Antonio Tarver was a champion because he had beat Montel Griffin for the vacant WBC title, a title that was left vacant because the man Roy Jones went up to heavyweight and he beat, I believe after he beat Clinton Woods. He went up to heavyweight and he beat John Ruiz for the WBA heavyweight strap, okay? Then Roy Jones comes back down to light heavyweight from heavyweight, you know what I'm saying? And he fights the man Antonio Tarver. And in the meantime, in between time, Antonio Tarver has collected the WBC title that the man left vacant, you know what I'm saying? That Roy Jones left vacant. But the WBA did not strip or have this guy Roy Jones vacate his light heavyweight title, okay? And Roy Jones is still the Ring Magazine champion as far as the Ring Magazine title is concerned, okay? So the first fight's a controversial decision. Could have gone either way, you know what I'm saying? And Roy Jones retains his WBA and his Ring Magazine title, as well as collecting back his WBC title, okay? I hope you guys are with me, you know what I mean? Okay? And so in the second fight, this particular fight right here, Roy Jones is coming to the table with two straps with this Ring Magazine title, you know what I mean? You check it? That's what Roy Jones is bringing to the table, you know what I'm saying? After the controversial decision in the first fight with Tarver, he comes back in the second fight and he's bringing all his hardware, you know what I'm saying? Bringing all his hardware, you know what I mean? His the WBC title, the WBA, and the Ring Magazine title. Of course, he gets knocked out in 2 rounds. He gets knocked out in the second round of this particular fight, you know what I'm saying? And this is now the debate now. Okay, so these guys are fighting for a Ring Magazine title. These are actually the best of the best light heavyweights on the planet. What are guys like Michalkowski, Julio Cesar Gonzalez, and Zoe Erdy? What are they really doing with that light heavyweight title? This is what I'm talking about. A disputed era. You know what I mean? Of course, us with the eyes, sure, we see Tarver, Jones, Glenn Johnson. These guys are mixing it up. You know what I mean? They doing round robins. They fighting each other. You know what I'm saying? So Erdy and Michalkowski. Michalkowski was fighting Roy Jones leftovers, and a leftover of Roy Jones, Julio Cesar Gonzalez, beats the man Michalkowski. Julio Cesar Gonzalez loses his title to so early in his first title defense. You know what I mean? So what's really going on over here? You know what I'm saying? You check it. It's a real confusing time. I can't lie about that. You know what I'm saying? And look, the lineage of the lineal light heavyweight started back up. It started again from the man Virgil Hill when he beat Henry Maskey. But now there's a whole lot of confusion, you know what I'm saying? Because Roy Jones is now fighting, defending his Ring Magazine titles. But is he really the man who beat the man who beat the man? He fought the man Virgil Hill after Virgil Hill had got beat, you know what I'm saying? All right. Yes, indeed. So here we go. There we go. You see the belt right there, right? That light heavyweight title. I'm sorry, Ring Magazine title held right there by the man Sam Watson. You see it, right? Yeah. So Roy Jones, I'm sorry, Tarver is now the Ring Magazine champion. You know what I'm saying? And you know, them fellas also has a W. What do you have? The WBC and the WBA titles. He beat off of the man Roy Jones, you know what I'm saying? So, in this particular fight you're seeing right here, and this is a fight that I got to commend both guys. I'm going to clap for them right quick. Because I remember this fight distinctively. These guys did not succumb or bow down to the sanctioning bodies, all right? Glenn Johnson versus Antonio Tarver. Antonio Tarver fresh off a beat and knocking out Roy Jones, all right? Yes, indeed. Now, this particular fight right here, and also, man, in the meantime, in between time, Glenn Johnson right here is an IBF champion. He's a champion after beating Clinton Woods, a title that was vacated by Roy Jones, and he eventually fought Roy Jones after Roy Jones got knocked out by Tarver. Roy Jones fought the man Glenn Johnson next, and Glenn Johnson, the Road Warrior, knocked him out in the ninth round. All right. So guess what? Guess who the two best light heavyweights in the world are? It ain't Zolt Erdi and whomever the hell he's fighting over there in Germany. No, no, it's not. It's actually Glenn Johnson and the man Antonio Tarver, as you can see right here on the film study. And this was a very close fight, could have gone either way. And Glenn Johnson wins this particular fight. Like I said, we got to applaud these guys. I forgot my point because these guys, Tarver and Glenn Johnson, they decided to vacate their sanctioning body alphabet belts, WBC, WBA, and IBF titles, because they had mandatories to fulfill. But instead of fighting their mandatories, they said, you know what? We'll fight each other for the biggest payday they could get, fighting each other. And the only thing that's going to be on the line is the Ring Magazine title. Okay? And I applaud both guys for taking that route, and I wish more guys would do that today. You know what I'm saying? These guys had to get credit for dropping they vacant they sanctioning body belts and just fight for the Ring Magazine title. Because at this particular time, to some it may be the legitimate light heavyweight title, to others it may not. But if you're looking at who the best of the best in the world are at the time of the light heavyweight division, this is clearly the best fight at light heavyweight division between number 1 and 2. You know what I'm saying? And Glenn Johnson wins a controversial close decision, you know what I'm saying? So now he's the Ring Magazine champion, you know what I mean? And more power to him, props to him. Guess what? They do a rematch. You know what I'm saying? They do a rematch, and Glenn Johnson loses on points clearly to the man Tarver. You know what I'm saying? And Tarver becomes now a two-time Ring Magazine champion, you know what I'm saying? With the light in the light heavyweight division, you know what I mean? So these guys are they fighting each other. They're fighting the best of the best. Roy Jones, Tarver, Glenn Johnson. But what is Zoe Erdy doing over there in Germany with that lineal title and WBO strap? Only Lord knows. Okay. So, Bernard Hopkins and Antonio Tarver make a fight. They make the fight happen in, I believe, 2006. Roy Jones, I'm sorry, Antonio Tarver, man, he gets washed by the man B-Hop. I believe, I think it was in round 4 or 5, the man Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins even drops the man Antonio Tarver. If I'm not mistaken, I think he dropped him twice. By distinctively, yeah, I think he dropped him twice, you know what I mean? I might be mistaken. I definitely remember one knockdown in round 4 or 5, you know what I'm saying? It's been a while since I've seen these fights. But Bernard Hopkins washes the man Antonio Tarver. I'm not gonna give you or make any excuses like Tarver was making on why he lost. He lost the fight. Now guess what? The Ring Magazine champion. No sanctioning bodies on the line, mind you. Just the Ring Magazine light heavyweight strap belongs now to Bernard Hopkins. He wins this particular fight. You know what I'm saying? So the titles are changing, and in the meantime, in between time, Zoe Erdy is in Germany fighting people we've never heard of, you know what I'm saying? Bottom feeders, low tier opponents, you know what I'm saying? Yes, indeed. Guess who comes to America? Finally comes to America and tries to catch an old American legend slipping. Joe Calzaghe comes to America, you know what I'm saying? In his final 2 fights. Comes to America, fights the man Bernard Hopkins, you know what I mean? In a very close, controversial fight, close, controversial decision, no question about it. And the man gets dropped. He gets dropped in round 1. I remember this. I haven't watched this fight in quite a while. Probably next time I watch is when I'm probably going to do a controversial decisions, because this definitely got to go up in the archives, you know what I mean? Joe Calzaghe gets dropped, but he gets up off the canvas and, pecks away, and, there he goes. Puts on his ass. Yeah. So, Joe Calzaghe beats B Hop. Close fight, you know what I'm saying? I thought Bernard, it could have gone either way, man. It could have gone either way, really and truly, you know what I mean? But, like I said, this is when Joe Calzaghe finally decided to cross over, cross the pond and come to America. But he didn't fight the young, hungry lions. He fought the old. Look, I'm not going to say so much that B Hop was faded, but definitely Roy Jones was, no question about that, you know what I'm saying? Um, and like I said, this is for the lineal light heavyweight championship right here. It's not the lineal, sorry, Ring Magazine championship, because the lineal championship is being held by Zolt Erdi over there in Germany, fighting everybody that we've never heard of. You know what I'm saying? Look at that knockdown, clean. Yes, indeed. Jab to the head, and he catches him with a flush right hand. 40-year-old B-Hop doing damage. Yes, indeed. So, in the meantime, in between time, man like Zolt Erdi finally decides to vacate his WBO and lineal strap. Um, he decides to go up to cruiserweight, and he fought some guy. I forgot the guy's name. Um, don't get me lying, the guy's name, but the guy was a WBC champ, because I know Zolt Erdi went up to cruiserweight, and he became a light heavyweight. I'm sorry, a cruiserweight champion. You know what I mean? So now the title is vacant. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, the both titles are vacant. You know what I mean? Because um, what you call it? Uh, Joe Calzaghe retires after he beats Roy Jones. Okay, he fought Roy Jones after he beat B Hop. You know what I mean? So with him retiring, the Ring Magazine title is vacant. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it is. Absolutely, it's vacant, and guess who fights for it? And as well as the lineal, um, Chad Dawson versus Jean Pascal. You know what I'm saying? That's who fights for this particular titles at 175 pounds. You know what I mean? The ring and the lineal heavyweight, light heavyweight titles on the line in this particular fight, because, like I said, Zor Erdi vacated and moved up to cruiserweight, became a champion up there with the WBC cruiserweight title, and Joe Calzaghe has vacated his the Ring Magazine light heavyweight strap, because he's vacated because he's retired. You know what I mean? So this particular fight, um, Pascal wins this fight. You know what I'm saying? Because of cuts. You know what I mean? The headbutts. The man Chad Dawson. It was a kind of anticlimactic stoppage. You know what I'm saying? But now Jean Pascal is the lineal is the WBC, the ring, and the lineal light heavyweight champions of the world. You know what I mean? So now the titles are finally together. You know what I'm saying? They're finally together, in coexistence together, coinciding together. The lineal and the ring magazine, for the first time since this is in 2010, for the first time since 1985. Could you believe that? Since 1985, we've basically, till at least this particular time right here in 2010, when Chad Dawson and Pascal fight, all those years, it's been confusion. It's just been title holders, alphabet belt holders. You know what I mean? We've been no clarity on who is the real champion, legitimate champion in the light heavyweight division. You know what I mean? And that's a damn shame. You know what I'm saying? And that's why the title of this video right here is the disputed era, and we're gonna talk about these disputed eras. You know what I'm saying? Now with the man Chad Dawson losing this fight, start come back to get himself a Ring Magazine title. You know what I mean? Yeah. Bernard Hopkins is now going to fight the man in Canada. And he fought the man, the first fight was in Canada, um, with Pascal, and there was a close fight, controversial decision. I thought that the man B Hop came back to win despite being dropped twice. Pascal showed his gas tank and what it's really about, and it was very putrid, to say the least. It was horrible, and he let the 40-plus-year-old man come back and possibly win the fight. So the fight was declared a draw. So Pascal retains his WBC ring and lineal titles. Then they fight in the rematch, And Bernard Hopkins takes this guy to school, you know what I'm saying? He gives him a thorough boxing lesson. And props to B Hop, you know what I mean? That's exactly what he did, you know what I mean? And that's in 2011, you know what I'm saying? So the ring and the WBC, I'm sorry, the ring and the lineal titles are still intact. No confusion, none of that, you know what I'm saying? Bernard Hopkins is a legitimate light heavyweight champion, you know what I'm saying? All right. Then the man Bernard Hopkins fights the man Chad Dawson twice. Okay? He fights Chad Dawson twice. The first fight, I think it got stopped in the second round. B Hop claimed he had a shoulder injury. They stopped the fight, so it was declared a no contest. Then they fought the second time, and Chad Dawson beats B Hop in a very close fight. You know what I mean? He wins on points. I believe it was a majority decision. And B Hop now loses his ring, WBC, and light heavyweight, lineal light heavyweight titles. You know what I'm saying? Now Chad Dawson is the man. You know what I mean? Dawson is the man who beat the man. You know what I'm saying? He beats the man B Hop to become the light heavyweight WBC ring and lineal light heavyweight champion of the world. Okay. Now Chad Dawson was feeling himself. Chad Dawson really wasn't a big ticket seller. Let's be honest about it. Very skilled, you know what I mean? Was a pound for pound standout, you know, but he wasn't really a big ticket seller, okay? So he decided to jump out the window and call the man Andre Ward out. Andre Ward was just fresh out of winning the World Boxing Super Series, beating Carl Froch in the final to win I said World Boxing Super Series, excuse me, the Super Six at the Super Middleweight Division tournament that was on Showtime. All right. So Chad Dawson's still WBC lineal and Ring Magazine champion, so he's going to go down to 168 to challenge Andre Ward. The rest is history. He gets battered, draining himself. I don't know why he decided to go down to 168. I give him props. Look, man, he's a true throwback fighter. He even went to the man's backyard to fight him in Oakland. You know what I mean? Okay, so he loses, gets dropped about 4 times, you know what I mean? Looked pretty drained. Then he comes back up to 175. He says he had the best training camp of his life, you know what I mean? He's ready to go and defend his WBC, ring, and lineal world titles. And the rest is history. If you know what happened in this fight, first round knockout, man. Adonis Stevenson was a guy in his very first fight at 175 pounds, coming up from 168 after guys like Kessler, Ward, Andre Ward, and Froch ducked the man Stevenson. He couldn't get no fights. He couldn't fight nobody, even in the title eliminator. He was number one. Number two, three, four didn't want to fight him, so he had to settle with fighting number five. And Donovan George at the time. He still couldn't get a title shot even after winning title eliminators. So he went up to 175, you know what I mean? True throwback style, you know what I'm saying? Can't get the fights you want, then just got to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? So this is the man right here, Adonis Stevenson, first round KO. He sparks out the man Chad Dawson with that left hand. You know what I'm saying? It was a thing of beauty. I remember this particular fight in June of 2013. That's when Adonis Stevenson was the fighter of the year. Now Adonis Stevenson is now the WBC, the lineal, and the Ring Magazine champion. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens, He's the man who beat the man. You see the guy on the canvas? He was the man who beat the man who beat the man. Who did he beat? He beat B Hop. Who did B Hop beat? B Hop beat Pascal. Who did Pascal beat? Pascal won the title when it was vacant when he fought the man Chad Dawson. All right, look at Adonis Stevenson, elated and so happy. It was a great night for him and Canadian boxing as well. You know what I mean? Okay, so during Adonis Stevenson reign, it was quite disputed. It was very disputed now because a guy like Sergey Kovalev, who ducked the man Adonis Stevenson, is holding 3 world titles. You know what I mean? And the 3 alphabet belts. WBO he beat Cleverly for. He has a WBA and IBF title that he beat off the unified former champion in B Hop. Because after B Hop lost to the man Chad Dawson, that's how great B Hop is. He still went on to become a unified champion at the age of like 49. You know what I'm saying? At 48, 49, I was even live at one of those fights when B Hop unified versus Beibut Shumenov. You know what I mean? So B Hop beats Shumenov for WBA, and B Hop already had an IBF belt. He beat off with Tavares Cloud. You know what I mean? So Kovalev beats the man B Hop convincingly every single round, drops him in round one, wins the fight 12 rounds to zip. No BS. That's actually the truth. You know what I'm saying? And now he has 3 world titles, but he doesn't have the WBC. I'm sorry, he doesn't have the WBC title, the Ring Magazine title, and the Lineal title. Those are held by the man Adonis Stevenson. Okay. Now Adonis Stevenson had a long reign at the light heavyweight with the WBC and the Lineal title. The Ring Magazine title had got stripped from him, I believe, when he fought the man Thomas Williams. You know what I mean? And it was due to inactivity or and not fighting the a top 15 fighter within 15 months or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And that was the reason they stripped the man Adonis Stevenson for his Ring Magazine belt, which is quite well and fine. You know what I mean? Because the Ring Magazine title, look, the lineal title was to me what really actually counted for more. That you can't strip nobody for. You know, you can only lose the lineal title, and it should be with the Ring Magazine title. You can only lose it if you vacate and go up in weight or retire, or if you lose it in the ring. You know what I mean? So this is where the confusion comes. This is the second fight between Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev, two both guys who avoided Adonis Stevenson. You know what I mean? And I guess they froze Adonis Stevenson out, and I guess they decided to fight each other. You know what I'm saying? Now, with Adonis Stevenson being the lineal champion, got stripped of the Ring Magazine title by De La Hoya, and then with the Ring Magazine, they made this particular fight, the second fight between Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev, with Ward coming in with the WBO, WBA, and IBF titles. He beat off Sergey Kovalev in the first fight. Controversial decision. Very, very controversial. Very controversial. He beats him for those titles. They come back in the rematch. Ward stops the man Sergey Kovalev in the eighth round, and the Ring Magazine title is on the line as well. And Andre Ward becomes the WBA. Basically, he picks up the Ring Magazine title to go along with his WBA, WBO, and IBF titles that he brought to the ring in the rematch. You know what I mean? Now, again, confusion. Disputed. This is now disputed. Andre Ward retires, okay? He retires from the game. Not trying to become undisputed, trying to get one more belt and the lineal title that is held by the man Adonis Stevenson. Adonis Stevenson wanted to fight. Andre Ward would barely utter the man Stevenson Superman's name. And that's just the truth about it. When Andre Ward was finally asked about the man Adonis Stevenson, he says something to the fact like, uh, um, what did Andre Ward say? He said something like, "It doesn't make sense right now," or um, he hasn't fought anybody, something to that effect. Something that didn't make no sense one bit. You know what I mean? So Adonis Stevenson continues in his light heavyweight reign, knocking out opponents. Has a difficult fight with the man Badu Jack, one of the best opponents on his resume. And actually, it had been a while before he had fought a great fighter. Up until he fought the man Badu Jack. It was a great fight. Adonis Stevenson was hurt real bad in round 12. Okay, and Adonis Stevenson was about 39, 40 years old when he fought Badu Jack, maybe 40. I believe he was 40. In his next title defense, Adonis Stevenson fights the Nail from Ukraine, bronze medalist in the 2012 Olympics, Alexander Vosdik. And Alexander Vosdik nearly ends Adonis Stevenson's life in the 11th round. He knocks him out, stops him, and becomes now the WBC and the lineal light heavyweight champion. Ain't nothing changed. He's the man who beat the man. How did he become lineal champion? He beat Adonis Stevenson. Who did Stevenson beat? Chad Dawson. Who did Chad Dawson beat? B-Hop. Who did B-Hop beat? Pascal. You know how it goes. And that's how the man Vosda became lineal champion. And guess what now? We have a new lineal champion. It was in a unification. A great fight. A very good fight. And a fight I was looking forward to, and it actually lived up to the hype. And it was fought between the Russian Arthur Beterbiev coming into the ring with his IBF strap, and Alexander Vosdik bringing his WBC and his lineal light heavyweight titles um, to the ring. Arthur Beterbiev gets stopped, I believe, in the 11th round in a very good fight. And now Arthur Beterbiev, as we speak today, as I make this video in April of 2020, what are we in 2020? Arthur Beterbiev is the unified, the IBF, WBC, and lineal light heavyweight champion of the world. I guess the Ring magazine is vacant still. You know what I mean? So let's talk about it. When we talk about disputed era, Roy Jones was a guy they said was disputed. Technically, he was had all three sanctioning title belts, right? Yeah, but he didn't fight the man Darius Michikowski. Not that Roy Jones was ducking him. He just wasn't going to Germany to fight the guy. Darius Michikowski wasn't coming over here to USA despite being offered his highest paydays of his career to fight in America and then eventually fight the man Roy Jones. Matter of fact, check out my video I have on my playlist, Fights We Didn't Get to See, Darius Michikowski versus Roy Jones. I explain all the details, the negotiations, the money offered, all that type of stuff, you know what I mean? So I put the onus and the blame basically on the man Darius Michikowski. But then again, the fight never happened, so we'll never know. I've always said it before. In boxing, that's one of the fights that till today pains me that we never got to see Darius Michikowski versus Roy Jones. Because that era from 1997 till 2003 was very murky and cloudy. It wasn't really defined by who's the true champion. For years, these two guys, Roy Jones is number one, rated in the Ring magazine, and Darius Michikowski's rated number two. And these guys never fought each other. You know what I'm saying? That's a disputed era right there. When Zolt Erdy is now the lineal champion from 2004 till 2009, when guys like B-Hop, Tarver, Glenn Johnson, and Roy Jones are all fighting each other. Who's Zolt Erdy fighting? You know what I mean? Fighting nobody. You know what I'm saying? So again, he has a lineal title. He got bragging rights. He's the man who beat the man who beat the man. But who are you fighting? This is now when the lineal and the ring and the it's the alphabet belts. It becomes very a sticky situation. Like, who's really the best? You know what I mean? And then Adonis Stevenson as a Ring Magazine champion, and the lineal. Then he gets stripped of the Ring Magazine belt. Then they award it to the man Andre Ward. Andre Ward only fought one good fighter at light heavyweight, and that's Kovalev, a guy who had ducked Stevenson twice, ducked out of purse bids. Andre Ward ain't even want to fight the man Stevenson. So how could the Ring Magazine even award Andre Ward that Ring Magazine title? I have a video when they awarded Andre Ward that light heavyweight title, and I think the title of my video was like, sometimes boxing be full of ish, because to me that was just politically a political decision by the Ring Magazine to crown Andre Ward, despite him not fighting the best of the best in the division. You know what I'm saying? So who do I blame for these situations? You know what I mean? For these disputed errors. You know what I'm saying? Um, for one, I blame the sanctioning bodies. You know what I mean? Yeah, because if the sanctioning bodies weren't around, believe you me, Darius Michikowski, if he only had that lineal title and Roy Jones had no sanctioning body championship fight, had no sanctioning body alphabet belts to get, believe you me, Roy Jones would have tried somehow, some way, and Darius Michikowski to make that fight happen, to find out who's the best of the best. So of course the alphabet belts, they you know, a guy like Zoe Erdy was satisfied with his WBO title. You know what I mean? He had no incentive, or he ain't really have no ambition of trying to go out there and get himself those other titles, or even to fight the B Hobsons and the Tarvers and the Chad Dawsons and all these guys, Pascals, all those guys in that era. He never fought them. That's because he was resting on his loins, sitting on that WBO and the lineal status. You know what I mean? You check it? Yeah, so I blame the sanctioning bodies, because look what Tarver and Glenn Johnson did. They said, forget about them sanctioning belts. We're going to drop our sanctioning belts, WBC, WBA, and IBF, and we're going to just fight for this Ring Magazine light heavyweight title, because it's the true championship. You know what I'm saying? But Darius Michikowski could say, y'all ain't doing nothing. But actually, at the time when Roy Jones fought Tarver in the second fight, when he got knocked out, Michikowski had already lost to the man Julio Cesar Gonzalez. You know what I mean? Other people I blame for the confusion is obviously Ring Magazine. You know, yeah, Ring Magazine, because Ring Magazine decided in 1990 to stop handing out, to stop giving people who truly deserve Ring Magazine titles that coincide with the lineal title. You know what I mean? And also, when they came back in 2002, they just gave Roy Jones Ring Magazine belt. He hadn't fought. Them fellas fought. He wasn't fighting the best of the best by the time when he fought Glenn Kelly. You know, it's up until he started fighting guys like Tarver at light heavyweight. That's when Roy Jones started getting that smoke. You know what I mean? You check it. All those other guys he beat before that, the Montel Griffins and the Eric Hardings and the Jamaican guy Richard Hall. Roy Jones even fought a policeman. I believe maybe that was at 168. You know what I'm saying? A New York City cop. Those guys just weren't cutting it. So there was a lot of confusion, and I blame also Ring Magazine for not actually awarding the right guy. They should have gave it to the man Darius Michukowski. That's what they should have done. And if Roy Jones wanted the lineal Ring Magazine belt, you gotta fight the man Michukowski. And I know that Roy Jones would have fought that guy. It's Michukowski, whom I'm a big fan of. You know what I mean? 23 or 24 light heavyweight title defenses, the most of all time. Michukowski's that dude. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? But he ain't want to fight the man Roy Jones. He ain't care about no American glory or legacy. None of that. He probably knew he's gonna lose. So what's the point of fighting the man for 5 million when I could clock 1.5 million for fighting even the German street sweeper in Germany, in Berlin or Dusseldorf? You know what I mean? That was an incentive to him. So I blame the sanctioning bodies for that disputed era, and I also blame the Ring Magazine for not awarding the correct guys like Andre Ward and Roy Jones, basically giving it to the American fighters. You know what I'm saying? Without them actually having to clean out the division. You know what I mean? So I know this video went a little longer than I thought it would, but it is what it is. I just had to give you guys basically a chronological order of how all the titles changed hands and where the dispute is. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? How, it was basically a disputed light heavyweight era. B Marsh Boxing, leave your thoughts and comments. Let me know what you guys think about it. Do you agree with me? Do you think this era was disputed? Do you think you know, let me know in the comments section what you guys think. You know what I'm saying? I personally think, we didn't never get to see Andre Ward versus Adonis Stevenson. We never got to see Michukowski versus Roy Jones. These are classic fights that didn't happen in boxing, and unfortunately for us, we're the ones who suffered. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this disputed era. Do you agree with me? Do you not? Did you consider Roy Jones the best of the best? Did you rate the guys he was fighting really at light heavyweight up until he met Antonio Tarver? It's on you. Be Marsh Boxing. The ball's in your court. Leave your thoughts and comments, and I'm gone. Peace. And check out my playlist, Historical Archives. Gone.